With Alex Bregman finally signing a contract and spring training starting soon, I think it's safe to say that the 2024 to 2025 offseason is officially over. All the major free agents have basically signed. Players are starting to get ready for the upcoming season, and I think it is the perfect time to make a prediction video. Now, this video is definitely not an original idea. I've seen many people do this before, and I thought it was really fun. Specifically, this YouTube channel called Home Run Productions made one last year, and I thought it was one of the coolest things ever. So this year, I wanted to try it for myself. Now, this video, I'm going to go over everything in the regular season, everything in the postseason, including the World Series, who I think will win the World Series. But I'm not going to be going over the awards, and if you guys want to see that, make sure you guys go drop a like on the video and go in the comment section. Let me know what you want to see, if you want to see the awards, or if you want to tell me what I thought wrong and what I'm stupid about and what team should have won what division. Like, if you think the White Sox should have won the Central, well then first of all, you might need to get your head checked, but second of all, you should still let me know. And while you're down there, you might as well subscribe. It really helps me a lot, and all you have to do is click the button for free. It really shows me that you guys like seeing the videos I put out, and I can make more videos for you guys. And so yeah, without further ado, let's get started with the AL East. Coming in 5th place in the AL East, I've got the Toronto Blue Jays. Now, the Blue Jays are going to be one of those teams where it's kind of their division that screws them. I don't think they're going to be a bad team. I have them probably around 75 to 80-ish wins. Now, this might change because depending on if they keep Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Now, obviously, he's going to be a free agent, so they're obviously either going to want to A, extend him, or B, trade him. Now, if they trade Guerrero, there's going to be a whole other story, and they're definitely going to be in last. But if they retain Guerrero and they buy at the deadline, I can see them actually being higher than 5th place. However, with their lineup construction right now, they have a solid batting order with George Springer, Guerrero, Santander, Bichette. I think he's going to bounce back. Same with Kirk. And I think Jimenez is going to be a little better than what he was last year. But their bullpen is a little bit shaky. Now, their rotation, don't get me wrong, with Gausman, Barrios, Francis, Bassett, and like Max Scherzer they signed, it's solid for me. Like, obviously with Scherzer and Gausman, they're getting older, and same with Bassett, I think is 36 now. There are obviously health concerns with those three. However, I still think that they're going to be great pitchers. The bullpen, like I said, is where I have an issue, because Jeff Hoffman, Chad Green, and maybe Yimi Garcia, I think those three are like the only guys I would trust out of the bullpen, and they all have had injury concerns. They DFA'd, or I think they non-tendered Jordan Romano not because he was really bad. He was really good for them back in 2021, 2023, but in 2024 he had a big injury and he wasn't very good, so they got rid of him and replaced him with Hoffman, who also has a big injury history, and Chad Green has been injured quite a bit as well. Garcia, I'm not too sure, but he's just there in my opinion. He's like solid arm. So the bullpen, I feel like they would need to address at the deadline if they want to even have a chance to compete. Coming in 4th place for the AL East, I've got the Tampa Bay Rays. Now, these Tampa Bay Rays are a little bit hard to really predict, simply because I feel like they always have random players show up for them at random times, and it is really difficult to see how they're going to finish. However, this year I just feel like it's not their year. I feel like they've still got another year to go, but I'm really excited about Junior Caminero. I feel like he's going to be an absolute stud. He's going to pop off, but they are probably going to trade Yandy Diaz. Brandon Lau is probably going to be gone, and Danny Jansen, they signed to a 1-year contract. He's probably gone. I think Ha-Sung Kim, I think he signed a 2-year deal, so I don't think he's going to be gone this year, but maybe for the right package. So I don't think that these guys are necessarily going to be competitive. They're going to be good and annoying like they always are, but I don't think they're going to make a deep playoff run or anything like that. I do want to point out, though, that their pitching, as always, is lethal. Like, out of the bullpen, you can go Garrett Clevenger is nasty, Pete Fairbanks, you have Edwin Uceta, and who they pick up? Alex Faedo. It's really, really difficult to score off them if you're losing after like the 6th, 7th inning. But the problem is their offense and their starting pitching needs to get them that far. This might be a bit surprising to some of you people, but I've actually got the Baltimore Orioles finishing in 3rd place this year. Now, hear me out. I'm not worried about their offense. As always, they've got Gunnar, they've got Adley, they signed Tyler O'Neill. I think Jackson Holliday's going to break out this year. But the main issue I have is their pitching. Now, Zach Eflin and Grayson Rodriguez as a 1-2 punch obviously is amazing. You like them. But they lost Corbin Burns, and they pretty much replaced him with 41-year-old Charlie Morton and Japanese pitcher Tomoyuki Sugano. I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name. Sorry if I pronounced it wrong. But he's also pretty old. I don't even know who their 5th starter is going to be. I think maybe like Dean Kramer or Trevor Rogers still on that team. I don't know. Like, their starting rotation outside their first 2, I'm just really, really worried about with either injuries or how performance is going to go. Their bullpen, their back end, is absolutely dominant with Felix Bautista and Yenier Cano. However, the other guys, I think they have Sir Anthony Dominguez, and they've got CNL Perez. I like him, but they've really been inconsistent, and you can't really rely on them to get you to your Cano and Bautista. And you're also banking on Bautista being immediately good after being out the entire year last year. So the pitching, they lost a Cy Young candidate and replaced him with 2 uncles, pretty much. I don't know. I don't trust their pitching. Coming in at number 2 in the AL East, I've got my Boston Red Sox. Now, you can call this bias or whatever, but I genuinely think that the Red Sox are going to be better than the Orioles this year. I mean, just take a look at this lineup right here. I'm showing it on screen. They just signed Alex Bregman, and they hopefully getting a healthy Trevor Story this year. And their pitching has been addressed with Garrett Crochet leading the pack. Tanner Houck's still going to be good. Brian Bayo, I feel like, is going to step up. Lucas Giolito is going to be back. Walker Buehler surely has to bounce back. That right there is a legitimate rotation, and I haven't even put in Cutter Crawford's name yet. And the bullpen is the only part that I would say is a little bit shaky for the Red Sox, but we still have Aroldis Chapman, who I feel like is still going to be solid. He's not going to be as good as he was, but Garrett Whitlock, who's going to be a full-time reliever this year, is going to be really solid. You have Josh Winkowski, who's going to give you innings and give you longevity. I feel like he's going to be great. And then Liam Hendricks as your closer. Obviously, he just came back from major surgery, but I feel like he's going to be good. And you obviously have to add at the deadline. Surely you have to trade for relief pitchers at the deadline. You have prospects, and you have players like Yoshida, Hamilton. Those guys can be traded. I feel like the Red Sox are really going to exceed expectations this year and be a solid playoff team. I still cannot put the Red Sox over my first place pick, which is the New York Yankees. And as much as I hate to say it, the Yankees just did it again. They unfortunately missed out on Juan Soto, or fortunately for me, I guess, but they missed out on Juan Soto. However, they picked up another left-handed outfielder in Cody Bellinger, who I'm not saying is as good. He is maybe like 60%, 65% as good as Juan Soto, which is solid. I think Paul Goldschmidt, I'm not particularly excited about Goldschmidt, but who knows, maybe he'll be better than Rizzo. I'm hoping, just for baseball's sake, that Giancarlo Stanton can just put up another 40 home run campaign. Man, I love Stanton. I feel like he should be more respected. I feel like he's such a good player, and they obviously picked up Max Fried. Their rotation is Garrett Cole, Max Fried, Carlos Rodon, Luis Gil, and then for number 5, you can go with Clark Schmidt or somebody. I don't actually know who their number 5 starter is, but I'm sure it's whoever it is really good. And then the bullpen. The Yankees bullpen is no joke, guys. Devin Williams, Luke Weaver, Ian Hamilton. The Reds traded them Fernando Cruz, who is a strikeout machine. They signed Tim Hill. Like, the list just goes on and on. Their bullpen is unbeatable. I even think Jonathan Loaizaga back. Crazy. Their bullpen is one of the best. So, with that, everything in mind, I feel like the Yankees are a clear pick for the first place in the AL East. Alright, so going on to the AL Central, we're just going to get this out of the way. At number 5, it's obviously going to be the White Sox. I don't want to slam on them anymore, so we're going to go right into number 4, which I've actually got the Minnesota Twins. Now, the Twins, on paper, don't have a bad lineup. In fact, I think they will be probably like 2 if they all stay healthy and all perform. But for the past 2 years, or maybe just last year, I guess, because 2023 they were fine. But last year, you could just see injuries to Byron Buxton, Royce Lewis, Carlos Correa, all these guys. They could not stay healthy, and then you have regression from Pablo Lopez. Although I will say I like Bailey Ober, but I just don't see them right now with how their lineup is higher than going number 4. At number 3, though, I've got the Cleveland Guardians, the defending AL Central crown. I've actually got them at number 3. Now, don't get me wrong, I still think that their hitting is absolutely fine. I think that how their lineup is, they've got a bunch of young guys, they've got veteran leaders like Carlos Santana, they've got Jose Ramirez, and they did trade away Josh Naylor, but I think that they're going to be fine without him. However, I just question their starting pitching. Their bullpen, we all know, is great, but their starting pitching, besides Tanner Bybee and maybe Luis Ortiz, I don't really know. Is Gavin Williams going to be good? Tristan McKenzie, Ben Lively, all those guys, I don't know if they're going to be good. They were good last year, but can they continue to be good? Shane Bieber will be back later, but can you rely on him to be good? Now, just a bit behind the first place team. In second place, I've got the Kansas City Royals, and we're going to start with the pitching because their pitching, I feel like, is their strong suit. Their starting rotation has Cole Reagan, Seth Lugo, Michael Wacha, all really nice pieces, and then their bullpen, they picked up Carlos Estevez, they have Lucas Erceg, James MacArthur, I feel like, is going to be good still, John Schreiber. The bullpen and the starting rotation, all great. Now, the hitting, the back end is where I have a problem with. The front, you obviously got guys like India, Witt, Perez, Pasquantino, but in the back end, I don't really trust it. Like, you got guys like Hunter Renfroe and Maikel Garcia, who you don't know what to expect from them. They can be good, they can be bad, I don't know. Is Kyle Isbell gonna be good? I don't know. So, I can't really trust that. So, this is why I have them just at number 2. I feel like they're still gonna be really good, though. That being said, though, this leaves our Detroit Tigers as our AL Central crown. Now, starting with the offense, I think it is one of the better ones. It's not one of the best, I don't think, but I think it's top 10. I think Parker Meadows, I personally love Parker Meadows, by the way. I think he's going to be great. They picked up Gleyber Torres. You already have Riley Green, Kerry Carpenter, and who knows, maybe you can have a Spencer Torkelson or Javi Baez, although unlikely for Baez, but you can have them bounce back. And their catcher, Jake Rogers, one of the better defensive catchers, and last year had a really bad offensive season, but look at his 2023 stats, guys. He was pretty good in 2023. And then obviously you have the starting rotation led by Cy Young Award winner Skubal. You have Flaherty coming back, Olsen, Mize, Job. All of those guys are insane. They picked up Alex Cobb. They could make a 6-man rotation. And the bullpen, you obviously have guys like Holton Foley, and you picked up Tommy Kahnle, and I don't even know what they're going to do with Kenta Maeda, because he was terrible, but is he really that bad? I mean, I just got the Tigers winning this thing, but not by a lot, but I feel like they're going to be a really, really fun and competitive team this year. Now, we're going to be heading to the AL West, which I feel like was one of the toughest divisions to rank, but the only position that I don't think is hard to rank is at number 5, which I've got the Anaheim Angels, and I'm sorry, man, like, the Angels, they picked up so many guys. They picked up Soler, they picked up Kikuchi, and they picked up Moncada. By the way, I love Moncada, but the other guys, like, even those guys I named could be good, could be bad. You don't really know what you're going to get out of them. And they have so many question marks. Like, why'd they pick up Kyle Hendricks? And is Tyler Anderson and Reed Detmers going to be really good or really bad? And the lineup, we all know the situation with Trout and Rendon, and even O'Hoppe sometimes. I feel like you don't really know if they're going to play 150 or they're going to play 50 games. And I just don't trust them being anywhere outside of 5th place in the AL West. Now, some of you guys might be very surprised by this pick, but I've got the Seattle Mariners in 4th place. And don't get me started on their starting pitching, because that is, at the very least, top 3 in MLB. I think everybody knows that at this point. And their bullpen still has Andres Munoz, and I think Gregory Santos is going to be very good. Although I will say, besides the back end, it is kind of questionable. But that's not why I put them in 4th place. I put them in 4th place because if you look at their lineup, last year they were bottom 10 in almost every offensive batting stat except for home runs. And all they did was bring back Jorge Polanco, who had a 651 OPS last year in Seattle. And I don't think he's a bad player. I just think he's bad in Seattle. But I don't know. You can't just expect players to naturally be better if you don't add anything. Like, it's kind of stupid in my opinion. Like, come on, go get some players. Trade one of your pitchers and get a player and get a good hitter, bro. In 3rd place, I've got the Sacramento, I think, A's. And I actually really like what the A's did. They picked up Gio Urshela for the offense, and they also have Jacob Wilson, who I think is going to be really good. They re-signed, or I guess extended, Brent Rooker. Lawrence Butler, I think, is going to be great. JJ Bleday. They have a bunch of young guys. Not to mention, Travis legend Miguel Andujar is still there. And their pitching is led by Luis Severino and Jeffrey Springs, who they picked up. I will say Springs has a long injury history. He's barely pitched in the last 2 years, but he's still very good when he's healthy. And then the bullpen, you have guys like Mason Miller, you have Jose Leclerc, you have guys like TJ McFarland, who isn't very good, but he's a crafty lefty, and if you use him right, I feel like he's going to be very, very good against lefties. Imagine if they kept Lucas Ursek, man. But yeah, I've got the A's at 3rd place. In the battle of the 2 Texas teams, in 2nd place, I've got the Houston Astros. Now, this year's Astros are actually so different from last year. Some notable subtractions. You have Kyle Tucker, Ryan Presley, Alex Bregman. Yusei Kikuchi was disgusting for the Astros down the stretch. They lost all of them. The Astros replaced those guys with Christian Walker, who I'm not saying is bad, but not gonna be good as Kyle Tucker, and you have Isaac Paredes, who is not gonna be as good as Alex Bregman, and the rotation is strong, but it is not good enough to make up for their bullpen being just Josh Hader and Brian Abreu. You need more than that to win, and the lineup, I don't know. It's such a big question mark, and it's like they could either pop off or they could be really bad. It's one of those where it's a big question mark, and who's gonna play left field for them? That means that leaving us in 1st place, we got the Texas Rangers. If you just take a look at this offense, they are cracked from top to bottom. You have Marcus Semien, Corey Seager, Wyatt Langford, Jock Peterson they picked up, Jake Berger, Evan Carter is gonna bounce back, Josh Young, Jonah Heim. They didn't even put in Josh Smith, who was crazy last year, and they didn't even put him in the starting lineup in the projections. And the rotation, if they're all healthy, they're studs. You have Nathan Eovaldi, Red Sox legend, by the way, Jacob deGrom, John Gray, Tyler Mahle, Cody Bradford. Look at Cody Bradford's stats last year. And then for the bullpen, they picked up Chris Martin. I feel like Robert Garcia, look out for his name. Robert Garcia, I feel like, is going to be crazy. Hobie Milner. I really wanted the Sox to get Hobie Milner because I feel like he's so disgusting. Last year, I feel like, is an outlier, and he's going to be really good again this year. And the Rangers, like, their biggest question mark is just their health concern. I feel like if they're all healthy, these guys genuinely could win 95 plus, maybe 100 wins. Alright, so now that we got the AL done, let's go into the NL. Starting with the East, at number 5, I've got the Miami Marlins. And there's not much to say for the Marlins. You lost Jesus Luzardo. You traded him away. You traded away Berger, and your only offseason move is signing Cal Quantrill. Yeah, you're going to be in 5th place. Now, in 4th place, I've got the Washington Nationals. Now, I think the Washington Nationals actually have a bright future. They have a ton of young guys, and they got Nathaniel Lowe, and they got rid of Patrick Corbin. So I feel like they're going to be good in the near future, but not quite yet. I feel like this is not their year. They're still very young. Their players still have much time to develop. And now let's get into our 3rd team. Coming in at number 3. This is a really tough decision for me, but I'm actually going to go with the Philadelphia Phillies. Now, the Phillies were really good, and they got Jesus Luzardo, Max Kepler, and Jordan Romano. However, they did lose 2 of their relievers as well, with Jeff Hoffman and Carlos Estevez leaving. And their lineup is still good, but I don't know. I just feel like the teams ahead of them have better lineups. That is because coming in at number 2, I've got the New York Mets. And the Mets, obviously, we know they signed Juan Soto. They got Pete Alonso back. And if you take a look at their top 4 hitters right now, they've got Lindor, Soto, Alonso, and Vientos batting in the top 4. That is already a crazy lineup. I don't even care what your next 5 are, but their next 5 are still no slouches. And if we take a look at their rotation, they also aren't bad either. They've got Manaya, Senga, they've got David Peterson, who I really, really like, and who knows, Clay Holmes might be in the rotation next year. Their bullpen is obviously a little bit shaky in my opinion, but they still have Diaz, they have Minter now, they have Reed Garrett. I don't know what happened to him, but I feel like he could still be pretty solid. And they signed Ryan Stanek. I feel like that bullpen could be addressed at the deadline, and I feel like they're going to be fine. So this is why I have them at number 2. Just slightly ahead, just a little bit ahead, I've got the 1st place Atlanta Braves. Now, the reason why I put the Braves over the Mets is because I feel like they have a better track record. Last year, they had tons of injuries, and they didn't have a healthy Austin Riley, they didn't have a healthy Acuna, Strider, and Sean Murphy was injured. And I don't know what happened with Matt Olson. He was playing a bit worse, but I feel like they're all going to be much better this year. Not only that, but they got Brian De La Cruz and they got Jerkson Profar, so I feel like that offense is going to be just as stacked. And for the pitching, now Strider is going to be coming back in the rotation, paired with Chris Sale and Reynaldo Lopez, Spencer Schwellenbach. I feel like he's going to be great, and their bullpen is still really solid. Raisel Iglesias, I feel like Pierce Johnson is the type of guy to just randomly be good at one point. Aaron Bummer, hello? I feel like he is so underrated as a crafty lefty who gets his Ks. He gives you innings. Well, innings as in he pitches a lot, not as in he pitches multiple innings. But the other, again though, the back end is fine, but the part that I'm worried about is getting there. So I feel like the Mets, they have to address the bullpen at the deadline. So in the end, I feel like whichever team finishes first is going to be the team that has the better bullpen at the end of the year. Moving on to the NL Central, we're going to start off with 2 absolutely disgusting and terrible organizations. Starting off in 5th place, who I think will be dead last, is the Pittsburgh Pirates. Now, the Pirates, you know, have Skeens and all that prospect stuff, but I don't care. Your team around Skeens is terrible, and all you really did was get an injured Spencer Horwitz, an aging Tommy Pham, and an aging Adam Frazier. That's about it. Like, I don't remember anything else. I don't think they got much else, and they're already terrible. So that's out of the way. In 4th place, I think not much better than them, but I think still pretty terrible, is the St. Louis Cardinals. And they did even worse than the Pirates. Guess how many people they signed? 0! Absolutely nobody! They signed no major league contracts, and they didn't even trade Arenado. Like, what are they doing? Arenado's value is going down, and you're not trading him, and you're holding on to all your old fellas and hoping that you magically win with Mason Wynn, no pun intended. But what are you doing? What are the Cardinals and Pirates doing? Like, I don't get it. Whatever, before I get mad, we're just gonna move on to my 3rd place team, which in my opinion is going to be the Cincinnati Reds. I really like the Reds. I just don't think that this is their year. Again, with a lot of these teams, I feel like they're just so close to being there, but I don't think they're quite there yet. They signed a bunch of guys. They got Nick Martinez back. They got Brady Singer in a trade. They got Taylor Rogers in a trade. They got back Wade Miley, who could be interesting for them, and they traded for Gavin Lux. There it is. But I just don't think that their roster, unless they add a lot at the deadline, I don't think their roster is able to compete with the next two teams. Coming in second place for the NL Central, I've actually got the Milwaukee Brewers. Now, the Brewers, we all know about their pitching. Their pitching is crazy. I even know how they do that. They didn't do anything this offseason, really, besides getting Nestor Cortez and Tyler Alexander. But they don't really, I guess they didn't really need to address anything in the pitching, because their pitching just comes out of nowhere. They did lose Willy Adames for the offensive side, which is why I have to dock them, because at shortstop, they're probably going to be running Joey Ortiz, who I think is going to be fine, but I'm not Willy Adames level. But their hitting, I just don't think is going to carry them as much as this first place team. In first place, though, I cannot believe I am saying this, I've got the Chicago Cubs, because round of applause to the Chicago Cubs, man. Like, put some respect on the Cubs this year. They have done a crazy job in the offseason getting Kyle Tucker. They got Ryan Brazier. As much as I hate Ryan Brazier, he's been good with the Dodgers. They got Ryan Presley. They got Matthew Boyd. Carson Kelly sneakily had a solid year as a catcher last year. And not to mention, their roster is already fine. The guys I just named are the only guys I think they really needed. They've got prospect Matt Shaw, who's going to come up and be a stud. And the rest of their bullpen, cracked. The rest of the rotation, cracked. The rest of the lineup, amazing. I feel like the Cubs are going to go off this year. And I think that anything they have to address at the deadline is probably just a few small things. And I think that if they get there, they could make a deep playoff push this year. Moving on to our final division, we got the NL West. And starting off at number 5, we're starting off real hot with the Colorado Rockies. And they've made like 2 moves getting Kyle Farmer and Thairo Estrada. They're terrible. A terrible organization. Don't know what they're doing down in Colorado. Ooh. Now, going on to 4th place, I've actually got the San Francisco Giants. Now, the Giants, they lost Blake Snell and Taylor Rogers, but they did bring in Willy Adames and Justin Verlander. Not saying Verlander is going to be very good, and Adames is going to be solid for sure, but they didn't really do anything else. So the Giants, their roster is already a bit shaky for me. So I'm just going to say that the Giants go in 4th place. Coming in 3rd place for the NL West, I've got the San Diego Padres. Now, I'm not saying the Padres are bad, but their roster is aging a bit with Manny Machado not being the same Machado as we knew. Yu Darvish is getting older. But they did make some moves, although their ownership debacle was definitely the worst part of the offseason. They didn't do much because of it. But they got Nick Pivetta, who I have some feelings for. I don't know if he's going to be good or bad. But they've also brought in Connor Joe. Elias Diaz came back. They didn't do too much, but their roster is also solid. They've got lots of young guys that are soon going to overtake the old guys. But I just don't think that this year is going to be their year. It's going to be like a middle transition year for them to the old squad to the new squad, if it makes any sense. Now, in 2nd place, I think everybody has seen this coming. It's going to be the Arizona Diamondbacks. Absolutely masterclass of an offseason for the Diamondbacks. They got Corbin Burns. They traded for Josh Naylor to replace Christian Walker. They got back Randall Grichuk, who crushed lefties last year. So they basically replaced all their guys that had to leave in free agency. And I feel like the roster is already really good. I feel like Corbin Carroll is going to bounce back and have a good year, like the whole year, not just the second half. So I feel like the D-backs, their new pitching and their new hitting, I feel like they're still going to be the 2nd place team. And to the surprise of absolutely 0 people, I've got the Dodgers in 1st place. I don't really want to talk about them for too much because I feel like you guys have heard enough about them. Like, I don't even have to go through their list of players. You guys know who they signed. I feel like the Dodgers, on paper, if they all stay healthy, can win 110 plus games. Like, it is a crazy roster. It is completely stacked. I don't know how to use more English words to be able to tell you guys how good the Dodgers are. Alright, so that does it for the regular season. If you guys need a recap, here on the screen is where I've got the final standings for every division. But now, moving on to the postseason. This is where things get really interesting, because who do I think is going to make the postseason? Now, let's start with the division winners. So, in the AL, the division winners are the Yankees, the Royals, and the Rangers. In the NL, you've got the Dodgers, the Cubs, and the Braves. And starting with the AL, for the number 4 seed, so first wildcard seed, I've got the Boston Red Sox. In the second seed, I've got the Detroit Tigers. And in the third wildcard seed, I've got the Baltimore Orioles. And for the NL, I've got the first wildcard going to the Diamondbacks, the second one going to the Mets, and the third one going to the Phillies. So those teams are what I've got in the playoffs. So let's start with the AL side. We're going to go from the AL all the way to the AL champion and the NL to the NL champion. So for the AL side, the two matchups are the Red Sox versus the Tigers and the Rangers versus the Orioles. This is how I'm setting this one up. So I think that the Red Sox are going to sweep the Tigers, and I think the Rangers are going to sweep the Orioles. I think that these are both going to be sweeps. Now, going to the division series, now this is where things get interesting, because I have the Red Sox versus the Yankees and the Rangers versus the Royals. Now, you guys know I'm a huge Red Sox fan, and I might have slight bias on this one, but I do have the Red Sox beating the Yankees in 5 games. Now, you can say this is bias, but I genuinely think that the Red Sox in the postseason have a good chance versus the Yankees, simply because if you look at the past, the Yankees just struggle in the postseason versus the Red Sox and the Astros. Those are two teams that the Yankees just can't beat, and so I feel like the Red Sox are going to ride this momentum from the wild card series and take it versus the Yankees. And over on the other side, I also think this is going to be a close match. I think this might only go 4 games though, as I do have the Rangers taking it over the Royals. And so for our championship series, we got the Rangers, the powerhouse Rangers, versus the young Red Sox, and I think that this is going to be an absolute battle. I think it's going to be a fight. You have former Red Sox in Chris Martin and Nathan Eovaldi on the Rangers, and I do think that the Rangers are going to beat the Red Sox in 6 games to become the AL champions. Moving on to the NL side of things, in the wildcard series, we got the Diamondbacks versus the Mets, and we got the Phillies versus the Braves. Now, for the Diamondbacks and the Mets, it is in terms of Diamondbacks, I think, have the superior pitching, and the Mets have the superior hitting. Now, which one am I going to go with? I think I'm going to go with the Diamondbacks on this one. I think the pitching is just going to be a little bit better than the Mets hitting, and overall, I think pitching is just key for a very short 3-game series, and I think that it's going to go all 3 games, but I think the Diamondbacks are going to take it. And for the other side, I think it's actually going to be a sweep. I think the Phillies are going to sweep the Braves. I just don't trust the Braves in the postseason outside of 2021, and so I feel like the Phillies are still going to take this one. So, going into the division series, we got the Diamondbacks versus the Dodgers, and we got the Cubs versus the Phillies. Now, we're going to start off with the Dodgers because I feel like it is pretty easy for them. I think that they're going to get their revenge from 2023, and they're actually going to sweep the Diamondbacks. As much as I love the Diamondbacks and I want them to win, I just don't see how the Diamondbacks can overcome in a 3-game series against Blake Snell. You have Yoshinobu Yamamoto and Shohei Ohtani potentially as your first 3 starters, and that is a crazy hit. It's 1, 2, 3. And so, moving on to the Cubs versus the Phillies, I actually think that this is going to be one of the most fun division series. In fact, the most fun division series to watch. I think it's going to also go all 5, and I'm going to just slightly take the Cubs over the Phillies. I really like this Cubs team, and I feel like their deadline is going to be great, and I feel like the Cubs, I have so much faith in them that I think that they're actually going to go the championship series. And in the championship series, I have the Cubs versus the Dodgers. And as much as I love the Cubs, I cannot pick the Cubs over the Dodgers right now. They are such a good team, well-rounded team. And, you know, as a fun pick, I would like to say the Cubs are the NL champion. But as a realistic pick, I'm going to take the Dodgers. And so now we move on to the World Series. And so, In the World Series, we have a clash of the Titans, the clash of the money spenders. You have the Rangers with their spending of Corey Seager, Marcus Semien, Jacob deGrom versus the absolute juggernaut of a Dodgers squad with Shohei Ohtani, Roki Sasaki, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Freddie Freeman, all that good stuff. I think this is going to be a great World Series. I think it's going to go, I'm going to say 6 games. And in 6 games, I have the 2025 World Series champions, the LA Dodgers. Don't know if you guys expected me to pick somebody else. I mean, I would love to see the Rangers win. I feel like the Rangers still have a good chance. But if you talk about just a realistic pick, I feel like the Dodgers, if they don't win the World Series, this might be the biggest choke ever. And so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I have the awards ready to go for next week or something like that. I don't know when I'm going to post it, but make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications so you guys don't miss it when I drop the awards predictions. And thank you guys so much for the support, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.